Hello, and welcome to another segment of the Coatesville Area Public Library's Oral History Project. I'm Kirk Witmer, and with me today is a gentleman that you may or may not recognize. If you saw him on the street, you probably would not recognize him, but you would certainly recognize his voice and his wonderful personality and his fun-loving genre. And I'm talking specifically of Art Douglas of WCOJ. Art, it's nice to have you with us today.
Thank you, Kirk, and it's good to be here.
We're glad to have you participating in our little project.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Art, you came to Coatesville, over 40 years ago.
56.
In 56, for an opportunity in broadcast journalism. Tell us how that came to be.
Well, I had just gotten out of the Army after 2 years of being drafted back in those days, and my home was in Upper Darby. So my wife and I drove up for a Christmas holiday, and during the Christmas holiday, I just happened to drive out to Coatesville and to see the station. And when I got there, they had an opening. They said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Well," I took an audition, and they offered me a job, and I accepted.
What were your first impressions of Coatesville itself, Art?
It's hard to say, Kirk. When I was at Upper Darby High School, somebody said to me one time, "Hey, the football team, we've got a game at Coatesville." And I, for some reason, in those days, thought Coatesville was out around Pittsburgh somewhere. I thought, my heavens, we'll have to leave like Friday morning for a Saturday afternoon game. And I knew it was kind of a steel town, but I didn't know that much about it. I had never been. When I grew up in Upper Darby, I always thought anything west of Newtown Square was Western Pennsylvania. But I was impressed with the area and the people especially.
Now, I remember WCOJ when I was a youngster as being located right near the intersection of 8th Avenue and Main Street, Lincoln Highway. I assume that's where it was when you started?
Yes, yeah, over a Pontiac Cadillac Agents car dealership, yeah.
Because I remember at the time, they would quite often take classes of elementary children from Terry Elementary across the street to WCOJ, and we would make an audio tape of music and play productions and things of that nature.
That's right.
That was a common occurrence back in those days, when whole classes would come to a radio station. Art, have you met any celebrities in your work in broadcast journalism? Have visits from
Over the
famous
years?
people? Yes.
Yeah, I got to know Jim Croce fairly well, pretty good and wonderful guy. And there have been others that I've met over the years that don't come to mind right offhand, but I guess Croce would be the number one. Al Martino, the singer, I got to know pretty well. And some ball players from the Phillies and the Eagles over the years that came out for we at COJ we did a great deal of sports, and we used to throw all-star dinners for the kids in the Chesmont League, and we would get an Eagle or whoever to come out and be our guest speaker. So every year, so we got to know quite a few of them that way.
Art, if you would, give me a rundown on what has happened to WCOJ in its history. I know that they've changed locations twice now. They moved from downtown Coatesville out to Mountain Road.
Where their transmitter is up on 82, Route 82 North. And
what was the reason for that?
They just wanted to consolidate, I think, everything. And they own the property and the land and so forth, so they wanted it, you were right there. You didn't have to be, but they just wanted to, I think, leave that area at that time and just move into a place where it was all their own. There was no parking problem and so forth.
You've had quite a change in your duties with WCOJ over the years. You've gone from being a personality to someone who was involved with the management aspects of the station.
Well, I started really working nights and Saturdays on the air, and then I got into sales full time and still worked on the weekends. And then I had an opportunity to go and take over the morning show and still keep the sales, which was good. So worked out well. Yeah.
Man who's worn many hats in that
Well,
business.
and I did most of the sports over the years with Westchester University and football, and Coatesville, Downingtown football and basketball, Westchester Henderson, and East. So I guess I've done most of it. You know, when I was still in school and trying to get into this business, somebody once told me, you get your job that you like, just work as hard as you can to make yourself indispensable. I don't think anybody's indispensable, but I had that in mind, you know, just if you can do it all, whenever they lay people off, you'll be the last one to go because you can do so many things. And I tried to be indispensable, but I was for 40 years anyway, or 42 years.
Art, there was a portion of the broadcast day for WCOJ that was ongoing for quite a number of years and sparked a lot of controversy, and I'm talking specifically Phone Forum. How did Phone Forum come into being?
That's a good question. I can't really think of how we first started, but they had the idea of doing a program where people would call and express opinions, and then the moderator had the option of either jumping in and arguing or agreeing, and it went on for a long time.
What were some of the hot topics that you can recall over the years?
The hottest was the pro-life movement, the pro-choice, pro-life, and we had
As it still is today.
Oh yeah, we had quite a few pro-lifers back in those days, and at one time, even before that, the John Birch Society was very much in vogue, and they used to have members call and argue, and we'd argue back and forth. And
My recollection of it is that the topics would seem to shift along with the local news. If we had a school strike or a strike at Lucan's or
no
whatever,
question. Yes.
it would tend to heat up at times.
Yeah.
And other days, I can recall, it was tough to get people to call in. If it was a slow news day, is that pretty much your recollection?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And the hotter the like a school strike, for example, the Coatesville school teachers went out, we'd get quite a few opinions. We'd get a parent who would call and support the teachers, and then one would call and criticize them and take the other end. And then once you got it going, you just sat back and fielded the calls.
And watched the lights light.
Yeah. But it was interesting. It was very... I used to give my opinion when someone would ask, only when someone would ask. And it never got me in hot water, but management got calls every so often about, why don't you get rid of him? You know, he's the way he thinks. And there were a few complimentary calls too, but it was funny. He expressed an opinion.
But by and large...
Yeah, I never gave it unless someone asked. I said, if you ask my opinion, I'll tell you what I think, but I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to take this side and ignore everything else. But it was fun. But there was, as you say, there were boring days. You just sat there and looked at that clock like this, and you think, my gosh, this thing will never be over.
How am I going to fill
Used to
all
run
this
a
time?
half hour. Used to run from 2:05 to 2:30. And if it was really hot and heavy, we just extend it. I could always do that. And some days it got pretty good. But we'd have guests every so often who would answer questions. But again, the subject matter was the important thing.
When WCOJ was in town at 8th and Lincoln Highway, did you spend much time in the city itself? I know we had an interview with Jolly Joe, who was one of your cohorts on the air for quite a while, and he told us that you used to come in his store because you loved the chicken salad sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah.
What other establishments are there in the area that you can recall that have changed or disappeared?
Well, I haven't, it's been so long since I've been in downtown Coatesville, I'm really not too sure what's still there and what's not, because I know a lot of businesses either packed up and left or sold out or moved, so I don't know what's down there. But I guess, Joe, at 8th and Main Streets, I don't know if you would call that downtown or not, maybe not, I guess, but but the radio station in those days was diagonally right across from. So at lunchtime, we just walk out and cross the street and right in there.
Yeah.
It was very convenient. We got to know Joe, and we'd run contests sometimes, give away nice prizes, and Joe would be part of it. We registered his place, and it was wasn't like a town hall meeting, but it was a focal point. A lot of people went there. They had the fountain and the prescriptions. They cashed checks for people and on assistance, and it was just kind of a fun place to be. And with Joe, it was always a fun place because that's where he got his name. Got his name from the Christmas song "Holly Jolly Christmas," and I used to play that in the morning, and I'd see him and I'd call, "Hey, Holly Jolly Joe."
Yeah.
They still call him Jolly Joe.
How did you hit upon the concept of inviting him to be your on-air sidekick?
You know, this was so long ago, I honestly don't exactly remember, but he used to come up, and the door was always open, and he'd bring coffee up. Which I look forward to. So a couple of times I said, "Come on and jump in here," and he'd in there with me, and we'd just talk, knock things around, and we'd pick a subject, and he said to me recently, "Boy, if you were on the air now with this thing in Washington," he said, "you would have a ball." And I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "We could really kick that around." I said, "Yeah." And he would come up almost, and even when we moved north on 82, he would drive all the way out from down from where he is at 8th and Main, and bring us coffee, and he used to bring tasty cakes and things of that nature. So, and a lot of people said they enjoyed it.
Well, I did. My memories of the two of you on the air together, that early morning show.
It was always early. He'd get there about 5:30, and our newsman would go on the air at 5 and just basically get us on and play some music, and then we'd start up at 6 really with our programming. So Joe got up there about 5:30. He used to beat me into the station in the morning.
I have many memories of the two of you on air, and it would take you just a brief little comment to start him laughing, and he had such an infectious laugh, still does, that it was a great way to start the day.
Thank you. I miss it. I really do miss it. Excuse me.
And I'm sure that there are many people in the area, too, that miss the voice of Chester County, because you are almost synonymous with that phrase, having been there for so many years.
Thank you.
Art, it's been a pleasure to have you with us and be part of our project here to give us a little more insight on the history of WCOJ. And
Thank you.
I thank you.
All right, thank you, Kirk. A pleasure to be here, and I didn't know we were going to be on TV, so to speak, when I got here this morning, but it's a pleasure. I've done some TV work in the past. COJ was owned for about 12, 13 years by Suburban Cable. Jerry Lenfest and his Suburban Cable operation, and we were the only radio station he had, so he just sort of left us alone, and we ran our own. You know, he said, as long as you make a profit and it's not off color or it's not something people are knocking all the time that they like, why, you'll never see me, and we never did. He had the philosophy of hiring people, letting them do their own thing, and if it got too bad in his estimation, he'd just replace you, but he gave you the rope, and then it was up to you. And for 12 or 13 years, he had it, and he had Suburban Cable, and we used to run the COJ audio on, at that time, Channel 7, which was the local TV station, local TV access channel. And then he sold. I had a little bit of a heart bypass operation about 3 years ago, and then I had a stroke right after that, and I knew he was thinking of selling the place, so I figured rather than start with somebody new who didn't know me and I didn't know, if I could retire, then he made me a very nice offer, if I wanted to retire before he sold, and I did. So now, then they moved it down to Thorndale, moved the studios down to Thorndale. No, COJ's been around. In fact, next year they celebrate their 50th anniversary. Yeah. 1949 was when they first started, late November. So next Thanksgiving it'll be almost just about 50 years. And I was there for 42, but it was fun. I can honestly say, I used to tell people, I don't mind going to work. I really enjoy my life. Somebody once said, if you really enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life, and I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life.
That's a wonderful attitude.
That's true. Many mornings, many weekends, I couldn't wait for the weekend to go, so I get back to work Monday morning. And when I was in school, I never cared for school that much, and Sunday nights used to think, oh, I got to get up and start all over again tomorrow morning. And I used to think, I hope I don't have to go all through all my life with a job, but that's all I ever wanted to do, and I've been very lucky, very fortunate to be able to do what I wanted to do since I was about 13 years old.
And we've been very fortunate to have you doing it
Well,
here in Chester County.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
All right, Kirk, thank you. Good luck to you.